Hey all. So this week I took a little bit of an extra step before actually reporting back to you on your reading results. And that extra step I took, I hope is going to extend the life of my computer's failing battery. Which I am long overdue to replace, apparently. That's something I learned this week. But other than that, everything's been going wonderfully. And as many of you guys may have heard, if you made it through the class this week, the class and the energy activation portion of our trainings, this week I'm using a deck called the Victorian Fairy Tarot. And I'm going to pause on this first card, which is actually an answer to Lexus Perkins, who you might be able to see on the other side of the screen there. Says, will Avery and I get married in what year? Because he's getting near his 30s. Oh, that's so much younger than you think it is. And I'm about to be 23 years old. I got married when I was 23 too. We are both happy. That's awesome. Congratulations. I hope he is my dream man. And actually, this card, the Nine of Autumn, I'm going to just spend a little bit longer on it with Lexus's reading with you all at the beginning of this session, because I want to just orient you to a few things that are different in the Victorian Fairy Tarot, and show you how, even though you may not, like I hadn't really read much with the Victorian Fairy Tarot until this last month when I got another Victorian Fairy Tarot deck in my collection, and I started playing around with it. So this is new to me too, and what I can show you here while we go through these readings, kind of just as an extra training, you're actually going to feel like you have a fairly firm foundation in basic tarot reading after going through all of these readings. So today, to speed things up a little bit, I'm going to try to go through the batch of reading requests that I have here, and it's fewer reading requests than I tried to do in the last couple of weeks, which is great because it was really kind of a lot to handle, and the videos were just overloading my poor little MacBook here, and I really do want to just use the MacBook for this because it's easiest on my end. So we're going to have a look at this deck, and we're going to use the opportunity of going through everyone's readings to get not only a really great basic training in the tarot for any deck you choose to read with, but you're also going to be very familiar with exactly what it means when I say things like, you can work with any tarot deck in the world if you take my trainings. Because what we do in these trainings, and you'll see this in action if you learn along with us here today in this hour or so, is how I do that, how I pick up any deck and know almost instantly what every single card in that deck is, even though I have never had this card come up in a group mini reading session before, because I've never read with this deck. I know exactly how to interpret it, even though I've never seen it before. And that's because I've got this mastery foundation in tarot knowledge. And I'm going to share a lot of that with you today so that you can do the same thing. You can go out there after this training, and if you're curious enough to find a deck for yourself that really resonates with you, that you love the illustrations or the colors or the size or the handling or the energy or whatever it is about whatever deck that really appeals to you, you're going to feel confident enough of your skills as a tarot reader right after this class with me today that you'll feel confident enough to go pick up that tarot deck and know that you will be able to read with it, even though you might not have time to read, 500 or 600 pages about that specific tarot deck. It doesn't matter because you've got a really good foundation in the tarot, and we can translate from universal tarot language to your specific deck's tarot language fairly easily. I think most of us on the video training today will find that at the end of this session, and you'll get your cards read along the way. So it's a really hands-on, easy way to learn to read the tarot. That's what we're about to do. Okay, so a couple of things about the Nine of Autumn and Lexis's specific here and how this translates to what you need to know about the tarot. So in the Victorian Fairy Tarot, they replace the names of the four suits, the traditional names of the four suits, with four suit names that are all their own but make so much sense. And you can get this from just usually when you buy a tarot deck, there's a tiny little, very paperback little reader that's usually just a little bit smaller than the area of one of the tarot cards, and it's very thin. You can tuck it in with whatever you're going to use to carry your tarot cards around in. And it's just a brief introduction to what they changed up and what they did, essentially, with things like this in their specific tarot deck. So I actually have a much larger book on the Victorian Fairy Companion, but pretty easy when you have any kind of a companion book that comes with a new deck. It'll be pretty easy for you to look at the introductory, page or two of that book, and they'll tell you what they did differently, and they'll tell you how it's supposed to relate or differ from the traditional meaning. So right there, you've got a page or two to read. Maybe it'll catch you up on how to interpret their deck when you have a basic knowledge of the tarot already, and you'll be off and running. So in this page or two, which was all I had to read to get up to speed with this tarot deck, it said, well, we've replaced the four traditional suits, which are wands and cups and pentacles and swords, with energetic correlations to the four seasons of the year. And that's fascinating to me. I mean, especially since I started running the Sacred Year course this year. It's another layer of interpretation that I've never seen anyone else do to connect and correlate the seasons of the year to the four suits as those suit names. So even though I have never ever seen this card before, the Nine of Autumn, I know, just from reading that page, that they replaced the suit of Pentacles with the suit of Autumn. And this actually makes a lot of sense. The suit of Pentacles traditionally is the suit that the tarot connects to Earth elementally, energetically. So all things to do with very material pieces of our existence, experiences as humans, the really tangible material stuff of life is very often included as the subject matter of the Pentacles. And in that vein, or understanding, what the creators of the Victorian Fairy Tarot have done here is, well, they've got lots of little Victorian fairy people in things like birds' nests and things, which is beautiful in the cards. But here in the suit of Autumn, we see ripening, I think they're peaches on this tree. She seems to be knitting in the middle of ripening peaches. Can you imagine the beautiful smell of that? In the fresh air and this golden light. It's obviously still warm enough. She's very comfortable. She's very well taken care of. In fact, she is so well taken care of. She's got a basket of yarn behind her there. And I'm sure she's also been helping that bird to build his nest with little pieces of yarn and scraps that she might be able to offer him. So she's being in her abundance to the point that she's also enjoying being generous and sharing with others. And these are all themes that we always see with the nines of any suit. Now, with the suit of Autumn, the abundance that we see here and the gratitude and the sharing and all of that that's happening in this nine is a very earthy nine-ness. And so we see actual ripening fruit, food. It doesn't get more materially appropriate energetically than that. And the month that everything ripens in and we have our harvest, so we have our gratitude, is of course autumn. So it makes a lot of sense that you can absolutely design a deck of tarot cards and replace the pentacles with autumn just as an energy, and so on and so forth. Now, as we go through the other suits, I will connect and correlate what they do with the other suits and the traditional namings. But so here, in answer to your question, Lexus, you've probably got a good idea already, as will everyone as I sort of explain more of the tarot as we go along, what this card might be saying to you. You might also see that there isn't a big, splashy word on this that says yes or no, for that matter. And your answer definitely has a yes or a no response implied here. So I'm going to do my best to give you that yes or no answer from this card. It's a little bit more grey than that. And it always will be with tarot, and I do want to take a moment to explain that to people too. Do you get definite yes and no answers from the tarot? Yes, of course you do, but both answers would always be right. And I'm going to try to elaborate on that a little bit, just to explain something that is commonly misunderstood by a lot of people. You guys may have an understanding of this already, but maybe this will make a lot of people listening and watching right now a little bit more comfortable with the tarot to know this too, because the tarot kind of got a really bad rap of being an oracle that will foresee your destiny and your future. Like, that is something that is set in stone, and it's absolutely not. What the tarot gets to show you in a really good reading is what you are on the path to probably, most likely, in all probability, manifest. This is the path that you're on. Can you change that up after you have this knowledge from a reading? Of course you can, and that's where your free will comes in. Things can also happen, but judging by how things are developing right now, what a good predictive reading will show us is what the most likely answer to your question is, and more than that, it also elaborates on that and tells us a lot about the energy of where that yes or no response sits. Why that is the answer is also pretty much explained in here. So I'm going to hesitate to guess and say, yes, this looks and feels really good for you guys as far as marriage is concerned. In what year is a little bit more difficult to tell, but I do like the idea of the 9 being a theme that might mean something here. So I'm going to teach just a little bit about how you might surmise an answer. If it feels appropriate, if it feels right, if it feels like this would have meaning for you, then it probably will. If it doesn't, you just leave it. Okay? You never have to accept anything I say in any of these readings blindly. But let's see if we can do a cross sum of any of the years around where we are right now and come up with the number 9. So what do we have in the year 2017 really going on? Well, obviously there's a 7 in there that everyone sees. So maybe the answer here is 2019, when you're 25. That's a brilliant age to get married, because it gives you a couple of years to really prepare well and really get the nest ready. And here we do see people in a very comfortable nest. They know they're going to have some challenges. They know they're going to grow and challenge each other in a good marriage, in productive, good ways. But they're going to make sure they're comfortable enough together in some sort of marriage nest to properly support each other so that they can both grow and develop better by sharing their lives, rather than worse because of some sort of neediness or something that hasn't come to fruition financially or whatever that might be for you. So maybe a couple of years out, just considering where most people in their early 20s and late 20s are at in life, might really benefit you and make that marriage much more comfortable and therefore much easier to be happy in on a level. Personally, I wish I would have learned that. The first time I got married, I wish I would have given things time to ripen, like is sort of suggested here. 2 years might seem like a really long engagement, but that might be really smart as well for a couple of reasons. But, let me go back to that cross sum thing really quickly. And you guys, you can do this with the years around your birthday and come up with all sorts of analysis of this. If you add your birthday's cross sum, which I will definitely devote a masterclass to at some point here for everyone in this group, guys, if you haven't already joined one of my groups and got that training from me, I'll sort that out on a level for you guys so you can all figure out your birth card is what I would call it. But we can very easily do a cross sum on 2017 by doing a sum, 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 7, adding all of the numbers in the current year together. If we do that, 2 plus 0 is 0. 2, it's just still 2. 0 plus 1, you can tell how good I am at math. 2 plus 1, rather, is 3. Plus 7 gives us 10. So we could also look for an answer by doing a cross sum. Okay. Now, the funny thing is, the cross sum of the next year would not be necessarily 11 if it works out to be 11, as 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 8 usually does, because that's 3 plus 8, which is 11, right? If it works out to be 11, we can actually cross sum that down to 2, because then 1 plus 1, the numbers that make up the number 11, if it's written out, can be cross summed down to 2. So you see how this works. You don't always know at first glance if you're not excellent at almost instant math calculations, which I certainly am not. I have to, as my students know, if I am ever figuring out a birth card or destiny card or a cross-sum association with a student, it takes me pen and paper, and then I have the student themselves cross-check it, because I do not have a math brain even for simple addition a lot of the time. I think that might be one of the things that you sort of, if you use your intuitive brain as much as I do, if you've done readings for as long as I do, maybe the math skills just sort of get pushed out of the brain. I don't know how that works, but I'm terrible with basic math. But you may not be. But for me, I'd have to go through the numbers. Okay, so 2018 boils down to 2 and 11. 2019, 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 9 is 12. And that boils down to 3. So you see how this goes. But if you went through enough of them, you'd get a later year. But just as an instant answer that feels pretty right on, I would go with 2019, because there's a 9 right in that number. I think that makes a lot of sense. Either that or the other obvious suggestion that may feel right for you is he about to turn 29? Is he 29? Is there a 9 in his number, or should you wait until there's a 9 in your number? You can kind of play with number analysis that way and use your intuition on a basic level. So that might answer that. And then the other thing here, Lexus, is the 2 questions thing that you saw that you're mentioning down at the bottom of your question there. Absolutely right. A little bit of a different interpretation that I intended, but it may not have been clear. I'm going to be allowing everyone in the group up to 2 of these mini readings every month. So with your permission, Lexus, what I will make a note to remind myself to do, is add your second question about Avery's car detailing business, and I'll include that in one of this next week's batches of mini readings, and I'll let you know about when I come up with an answer with that one for you too. Okay, let's go to the next card, which was the Seven of Autumn. So same suit, but here we've got a 7. So we're still dealing with pentacles. We're still dealing with earthy energy. This guy seems to be assessing the quality of some wine that he's made, and he's got berries behind him. I think they might be hawthorn berries. Maybe this is a hawthorn wine or a hawthorn beverage of some sort that he's concocted. And he's assessing this, because 7s are very often about assessing or praising. This is Lisvette's answer, and Lisvette has asked, I would like to have a home-based business and have been pushed in the direction of coaching. What coaching niche is connected to my purpose? Thanks beforehand. And Lisvette, I'm going to ask you if this might resonate with you on some level. If this card's coming up, you're very good at assessing and appraising the truth or the reality of a situation for someone. And you might be really good with things like bookkeeping, or you might be able to see a big picture, consulting with someone about something very, what am I trying to say? Big picture, very, very tangible, very material things. You might be a great closet organizer, or a time organizer, or a productivity. You've got a special talent in that. You'd be good at project management, or you'd be good at maybe managing a vineyard, or all these very physical things that you could help people assess, make better decisions with, prioritize better with. And refine their process with in a very tangible way. I get the feeling that you are actually really good at that, or that's an untapped talent that you might be developing energetically in some sense. Now, that's about all I can say about what coaching niches might be appropriate feeling to you. But yeah, something with assessment and a real physical, tangible quality to it, where you're helping people refine some sort of process into a much more fine-tuned machine in some way, I guess. That seems to be what's coming to mind. Deb, let's see what your result was. You had a reversed card. I think this is really speeding things up, having already loaded pictures of everyone's card results into iPhoto here and just scrolling through on the screen. I'm glad this is going so quickly. Okay, next lesson here. We've learned about 7s. We've learned about the suit of autumn, which is actually pentacles. Here we see a very earth-connected major arcana card reversed. So guess what? Now you get to learn about major arcana cards. You get to learn about the Victorian Tarot's renaming of the standard name of one of those major arcana cards here with Deb's reading result. And I'm going to chat a little bit about reversals as well. Now, I think this is a brilliant renaming of this major arcana card, and it is absolutely my favorite card to rename in a deck. I really, as many people will understand when I explain myself a little more here, quite uncomfortable with the traditional naming of the card, not because the name carries any sort of energy at all. Names only carry energy when you give them energy. You have to go through an internal labeling of what reality is for anything with that name attached to it. That's your belief system, right? But there are so many people who have a pervasive belief about the naming traditionally of this card that the real meaning of the card's energy sort of gets lost in this muddled, clouded, outdated, for not for the most part, but somewhat outdated view of what the traditional name here means. And I think it's time that this card got renamed almost all the time for that reason. The traditional name of this major arcana card, Deb, is the Devil, and I really don't like that name, as you probably can understand now, because it doesn't do justice to what I truly believe about every single card in the tarot. What the tarot is supposed to be is a prescriptive vision of how to handle all of the energies of all of the experiences of life. And in that lesson, sort of in every tarot lesson that a tarot card reading would ever give you, and these really are lessons really on a level. That's what we're receiving when we ask for an intuitive reading with the tarot, with any, we're receiving a lesson back, right? But here, with this card, the lesson here is how to handle this earthly experience of the physical world, of that pentacle realm that all of the readings so far have been about in this group, which is interesting. And how to handle that better, how to not let that get the better of you. And it's reversed. So, and it's a major arcana card. Okay, so what all that means, and it's reversed, and it's a major arcana card, when I'm thinking and assessing what that is here, is a major card. There's only 22 major cards in a deck of tarot cards. Okay, there are 78 cards overall. The majors, there's only 22 of them. They're a minority of the deck. The other 56 cards are typically called the minor arcana. The major cards, typically, when you draw a major card as a result, it's a bit of a bigger deal on a soul level, soul development, development on a lifetime perspective kind of thing. This is one of the big issues for you in life. This isn't just like I like to say, a chopping wood, carrying water, everyday, normal sort of happening. This is a big deal. When you get over the pain that you are talking about, and I'm using those words, when you get over it, specifically so that when you receive this knowledge from the reading, your unconscious can trust it as something to grow towards. Because really what you're asking in this question is, how can I get out of this pain? Why is this pain in my life, right? That's why you're asking why. You know, what's the deeper reason here, so that maybe I can conquer this pain at some point. And conquer is a word that is also so appropriate a lot of the time for people who have reversed devil energy going on in their lives. What reversed 15 energy does is it doesn't allow us to see this goblin market. You may have been reading the words there upside down as they are, and all of its abundance and all of its treats and ripe fruit and beautiful, you know, drapings and things. It doesn't allow us to see all of this stuff that he's got because it's reversed. Right? So we're trying to make sense of this image and it's upside down. And it looks really important to have basically what this little goblin seems to have, which is an enjoyment of the abundance that the world has provided him with. You know, maybe he's a little storekeeper here in the goblin market. That's what it looks like. And, you know, this card sort of looks enjoyable in a way. It looks a little bit grasping. He's sort of grasping for the things that he's got there to sell. And he is sitting on a sack on the floor. So how abundant is this guy really? Well, it all depends on your perspective, right? Sometimes it's absolutely necessary to simply allow yourself to enjoy your life. And this is something that chronic pain sort of saps you of. It is difficult to enjoy your life with chronic pain. Now, what the tarot can really help with on that soul level consciousness kind of level, I guess, soul level, is the idea of why. What you've asked here is actually a really mature question, right? Okay, so I have this pain. There's obviously at this point some acceptance of this. You're not at a stage of handling this pain where you're in denial that it exists or you're just ignoring it. You can't ignore it anymore. And that's really a lesson that tells me that you're well on the way to reversing this reversal, uprighting this reversal, because you are looking at the problem right? And that's the first step here. Now, when we turn this card upright, we can see where it's abundant and where it's grasping, and we can make better decisions. But we have to be able to turn this card upright, first of all, which for you, I'm sensing means we have to have the experience of joy in our life as much as we can, in spite of the pain. And this is something that all chronic pain sufferers are always told, I know. We have to enjoy, we have to be able to flood our suffering with the energy of enjoyment. The energy of enjoyment, by the way, brings water energy to the overwhelming dominance of earth energy that is often in this archetype 15 of the major arcana. And that's kind of symbolic too. And we say things like flood with joy, flood with emotion. And even the words we describe to describe the experience of our emotional world are very often watery words, right? So your emotional life, finding joy, finding laughter, is going to help you to shift and find the awareness of what needs to change. You know, obviously it could be a number of things that gets you to this, and I'm sure you're working really hard on things like diet and all of that stuff, and getting, if it's medicated, making sure the medications aren't interfering and making matters worse on too many levels. My stepmother, poor thing, suffered with fibromyalgia and was on such a high doses of painkillers that then that started affecting her stomach, and then she has another issue. And it's just one of those things that the other thing that's important in viewing this energy the right way up is really seeing it for what it is, but not making yourself feel guilty. You haven't done anything wrong. You haven't done anything to deserve this pain. And this is also really, really important stuff for any devil energy stuff that comes up. Typically speaking, what are the issues that are usually surfacing in some way? If someone has the devil card come up in any reading, just so you guys know, it's always archetype 15. You'll see that X and the V there, the Roman numerals for 15 upside down on this image. But really and truly, what's going on there is the number is 15 for a whole set of other numerology lectures I could give you, which are fascinating. And it falls in the bottom part of a column in a tableau of the 22 major arcana cards when you lay them out in a certain way. That's another masterclass. There are deeper levels of understanding all of these. But typically, roughly speaking, if the devil's cards come up with something in the reading has come up as this card in any level, reversed or upright, we are dealing with conquering something that is taking energy from this person rather than giving them energy for their life, for doing what they're really supposed to be doing. The devil can feel like a bedeviling distraction. It can be hard to look at what is really causing stuff. What are the underlying emotional levels to a physical complaint? And that's basically what Deb was really courageous enough to ask, right? And hopefully that answer helps her. It's a very long answer, right? There's a lot in these answers. They're not. I can't say, oh, you suffered this because a past life 250 years ago, this other thing happened that you now have no control over. Maybe that's part of the factor, if you like past life integration and things and it feels appropriate for you, sure. But the thing that I don't like about going there too much with people is, what does that give you to do about it? And I want you to leave my readings with something to do if you've presented a problem that you would like help with. So hopefully that deeper answer about finding ways to allow emotional joy and how that can take care of a level of pain enough that it can get energy moving. And maybe if physical activity is being prescribed, but it's been too painful all of a sudden, if you're happier, it really can have an effect on your pain level enough that then you might get strong enough to exercise more, and that might have a compounding positive effect. so on and so forth. What you're reading, what media you're consuming, who you're around, whether they're upsetting or really supportive and happy people for you, all of these things are a factor. But what I want you to focus on is what exactly is making you happy. When the devil card comes up, it's usually because someone has their happiness masked in certain ways. Addictions, drug addictions, alcohol addictions, emotional disorders, bipolarism, things with a real kind of dark or shadow side to them that can be difficult for people to look at can often be addressed here, as can obsessions. If there's something or somebody that is, or an issue like pain or whatever, that feels like it's holding you back, restricting, that's all devil energy stuff. The devil, as many major arcana cards do, connects also to zodiac energies. And the devil specifically is connected with the zodiac month of Capricorn. Capricorn signature planet there is often interpreted as Saturn. This is energy, Saturnian energy, devil energy. Capricorn energy is about limitations and lessons. And when you figure out the lesson, often then the restriction, the limitation can lift. So hopefully everyone got a really great training there in at least one of the minor arcana card suits. That's what we've done so far, Pentacles. And probably, funnily enough, and it just kind of worked out this way with this little mini group, one of the cards that connects most heavily to earth sign energies. Again, Capricorn, of course, for those of you who know astrology as well, is an earth sign card, right? The next reading I have is actually the Herald of Winter, and we're going to discuss air sign energy here with Francoise. Hi again, Francoise, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name okay. Let me know if you get a chance in comments in our group whether I'm doing a good job with your name there, and I really apologize if I'm not. But I will do my best with you guys' names. So the Herald of Winter is a card that is a different suit. The season of winter, they connect to the suit of air, which is usually represented in a typical tarot deck as swords. So here with swords, we have air energy. This is very different from the earth energy that we've been discussing so far. Now the next card is also winter, so Francoise and Pana, if you'll hang on, I'm going to include you in the last few readings here. And then Mary, we've got another Empress card here, and I'll discuss that one as well because we've already introduced Major Arcana. These three are going to go pretty quickly here, and I'd like everyone, even if you've already had your card read, stick around while I explain swords and the Empress as other examples of minor arcana and major arcana, and I'll chat about some contrasts here which will also deepen your understanding of your reading. I'm not quite done. Even though I've covered your card, I'd like to just have the opportunity as I go through these other ones to chat a little bit about some patterns that might also be useful to add a level and a depth to your reading too. And then starting with Liz, Liz's question will be in the next group, so you guys are going to be my first little group here with today's recordings. Now, how on earth am I going back here? Oh, I just slide. Wow. Never ceases to amaze me, the wonders of the MacBook. Okay, so here we have the Herald of Winter's Francoise's answer. The Herald in this deck is roughly equivalent to the page in a regular deck. So this is also our first example of a court card versus a numbered card. The numbered cards so far we have discussed have been the 9, and then what other number did we have? I can't remember. I guess I'm going to go back and review what we've already done because we've only done 9 and a 7, that's right. So pretty high numbers and odd numbers so far. Overall, by the way, when you have a 9 or a 7, an odd number, or a 3, or a 5, or a 1 for that matter, or a page. What you're dealing with is an odd number there because a page or a herald is an 11, basically. It comes after the 10, before the knight, before the queen, before the king, typically. So we can kind of count the herald as an odd number here as well. With any odd number before the court cards, the case here is that odd number energy means it's unbalanced energy. It's not even numbers like 2, 4, 6, 8. Those are even numbers. They feel more balanced to us intrinsically, right? Odd numbers don't. They're out of balance, which means with any odd number, we're essentially dealing with a shift or a change of some sort, minor or major. It's some sort of a change. Here we have a mature change. Oh, I have abundance. Now let me learn to share this with this cute little bird. And it's even better again. But that going beyond your own needs, feeling so much abundance that you can now serve others and share with others, and this ripens and heightens your joy and your enjoyment. These are all the things in the 9, but these are new. These are things that might need to change. Just a little bit, very mature refinement, a little bit more mature even than this card, the 7, which I described as discerning, reassessing, refining. That's very much the energy of the change that you're coming to with a 7. The goblin market here, 15 is also an odd number. Yes, we have to overcome an obstacle. Is there going to be a big change involved when she loses her pain, when she overcomes that obstacle? Absolutely. That's a huge positive change, actually, for such a negatively connoted card here, right? Okay, the Herald of Winter is also a change. We've got an 11 here, but for the first time we have a court card member of the Minor Arcana. Whenever you see a court card, so if you have a herald, a knight, a queen, a king, or I don't know what they call knights, I'm sure I'll figure it out as we go through these later. I just can't remember right now. The pages are definitely heralds. I know that right now. I'm just remembering the card. So here we have the shift from building something to a competent level of completion energetically, which is what all of the numbers from 1 to 10 typically in any suit are about. Here we have a mastery of the element of the suit. Here with the Herald of Winter, the change which is upon him, and a herald heralds change, right? So we know this is about change too. But the mastery of this says they are heralding a mastery here of some sort of the suit of air. So the opportunity is presenting itself. It's reversed. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, and I know I didn't talk about it quite enough with the last one. I was introducing majors there, but I'll explain the reversal in a little more detail here in a minute too. But the Herald of Winter is really about changing, shifting from usually a relationship with conflict in communication with others, which usually resolved with the 10 of Swords, or the Dex equivalent. With most stories in most tarots, the conflict finds resolution and ending with the 10 of Swords. We often see swords, stabbing a dead body through, which is metaphorically in that card saying it's done, it's over, this whole conflict is done. Now, with something that has been feeling like a big conflict behind us, the Herald of Winter can now present a new way to ensure more and more that your communicative life, your life of communicating with others and with your self-talk, your own self-language, more peaceful, more masterful communication will be more peaceful, more balanced. And all of that energy feels very different on a level when you get to mastery of communication. We're not dealing with conflicts anymore. The conflicts are done. Now we want to find a better, more peaceful way, right, to communicate. So let's have a look at Francoise's question, because I haven't even read her question yet. Hi, Laura. I have received 2 readings from you. Oh, right. And on both occasions, one last month and one this month, I had 2 numbers the star 17/8, for example, and the 4 of stone. So here's the thing right now, with talking about odd numbers, by the way, Francoise, that I'm just now realizing, you're bringing attention to the numbers here. And we did talk a little bit. It felt like the appropriate time there to talk more about odds and even numbers. The star as a 17/8, as many cross sums do, is they give us an odd and an even cross sum relationship, right, between the star and strength. We talked about that for you in a previous session. I'm sure we'll get to discuss that in another session for lots of people here. But what we have here is the 8 as strength, as the cross sum of 17. And then we have the 4 of stones, which is also about strength doubling in the material world of stones. I believe the Chrysalis Tarot may have been the stones in the deck. I have several decks that use stones instead of pentacles for the earth element. But I think we were reading with Chrysalis, if I remember correctly. So the 4 of stones is a very stable, earthy, physical stability sort of thing. Now, in this occasion, we're going to, as you ask, add to the question, will I find my place? Find what I'm supposed to do to be able to re-find myself again. Thank you very much. And my answer there, and thank you for reminding me of the numberings of your previous answers in the suit there, because what we had there was all stuff that we've been discussing a lot here. Physical strength, material foundation building, strengthening. Everyone so far has had a material world card. Now, here's what would happen if instead of the material world connections, you drew a card like this. Frosty, sleeping earth of winter, mental activity, air energy in this season and this element, communication energy versus that very physical elemental energy of pentacles. Now, what this means for Francoise, because she's had 2 very physical strengthening cards before as well. It's really neat how these groups are tying together in these mini lessons, by the way. I really like doing tarot sort of more experientially this way. I think you learn almost as much as you need to for a first class in tarot, for sure. So basically, you're shifting right now from an experience that has really allowed you to find your strength in inspiration. We probably talked about that in that star assessment. And the 4 of stones, finding your strength by gathering resource and making sure that materially you're in a good, stable place yourself. Now, with air energy and with an odd number, we are heralding a shift, a change to a period of time that now you've got all of that sorted out, or once that is sorted out, that might be the answer because this is a reversed card. Might not be feeling sorted out right now, but once we get this card uprighted, which is basically, by the way, how I interpret reverse cards, whenever you see a reverse card, your brain is trying to make sense of that image, and it does this task in your brain where it's trying to upright what your eyes are actually seeing. Now here, when the herald is turned upside down in this deck, an interesting thing that you see visually, which you may not have seen right away if this card was upright, is upside down. How he's hanging from this tree resembles a major arcana card called the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man comes right before a change as well. So I feel very confident in saying that once you figure out how to shift from these very material concerns that have been so very important for you to bear in mind recently, into being able to focus more on your communicative environment. This is a shift in a few ways. It's almost a Hanged Man quality shift. He's a major arcana. This is a court card to do with mastering. A new focus on mastering communication might be brought about by a shift in perspective. And the shift of going to odd numbered cards as well says, okay, time to change things up. The new focus here for you now gets to be a focus on communicating. Collecting information and data and sharing information and data or some sort of message to impart with others and yourself, that's going to shift in that thought realm for you. So I think venturing back into that realm of thought that is going to be feeling less like conflict for you now is probably what I'm reading here. And that hasn't quite happened yet. That's the only reason this card is reversed. As with all reversals, when you have a reversal, the card is still there. It's still shown up. The energies are still there for you. They're just a little bit more in potential. And so when you get a reverse card, it's sort of the Tarot's way of saying, okay, you need to do something here to turn this the right way up, figuratively speaking, in your life. So I never interpret a reverse card particularly badly. In fact, when I have a big Celtic cross spread in front of me or something, I really kind of like to see a few reversed cards, because that then tells me almost instantly where the client probably needs me to suggest they focus most of their energies. This is the stuff you need to actually actively change somehow, the reversed cards. So giving yourself the opportunity to herald a new air sign reality and way of looking at the world is now going to become possible for you. And maybe that's your place. Maybe that's what you're supposed to be doing, is helping others more with those communicative skills. Maybe that's going to become something that shows up for you as an opportunity once all of that physical concern seems to be behind you. Okay, and Panavang, glad you're feeling better. Yeah, these readings have taken a long time, and I'm sorry for the delay, guys. I really did come down with whatever was going around last week, didn't I? Yeah, it was definitely sort of a flu thing. Members of my family are still sort of fighting it. Pana, you have a 4 of the same suit, Winter, Swords, Air Sign, Communicative Energy we were just talking about. But the 4 is that stabilizing energy that we just talked about a little bit when we were reviewing Francoise's previous reading, where she received the 4 of Stones as an answer. So here we have the 4 of Winter. So when you have any even number card, and this is an upright card, your question is, what career path should I take? This card is really all about secure, stable, mental thinking, thoughts, health, all of that stuff. Stabilizing communicative energy that might feel like conflict. Conflict resolution might be something that you're particularly good at. Mediation, or helping people take breaks from being overwhelmed with too much information, too many arguments, too much conflict, whatever has been happening that might have been a little bit heartbreaking in the 3 that we usually feel comes before the 4 of Winter. What happens in the 3 is usually depicted as like a heart being stabbed through with 3 arrows or swords. Here in the 4, we very often see a person taking a break by themselves, retreating, usually with swords sort of hanging down. Here we see icicles hanging down, which is just as amazing, as beautiful. But you see that he's on the other side of these icicles. Now that's kind of reversed from what I usually see in like a traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck or something. But here we see that there's kind of a cave space hollowed out for him inside this old dead tree trunk, and he's using this space to shelter from the storm or the world or the cold communication that he may have been receiving as environmental feedback. And he's taking a break, he's resting, he's retreating. Hopefully he doesn't get too cold and freeze to death here. There is sort of that going on for a lot of people when they look at an image like this. In the traditional deck, we actually see someone entombed in like a traditional big stone church tomb with swords just sort of carved in the stone behind them oftentimes. So the swords aren't real swords anymore, and the issue gets to sort of die a little death almost, so that when we come back with the 5 and the 6, it almost feels like a resurrection. So All that being said, what career path should you take? I think something that helps people with conflict resolution, taking breaks, mediation, retreating, self-development. You might be really good at helping people find themselves and find their own inner message and their own inner truth before returning to the world after some sort of retreat. All those words kind of come to mind for me when I see the image of the Four of Winter. Okay, Mary, and finally, this is just another lesson for you guys who are really discerning the difference between a major card and a minor card. For those of you who had minor cards, and that's the Herald, the 7, the 9, the 4 that we've covered. The Devil was the only major arcana we looked at so far. Here we have the Empress, and she's another major arcana card. To review for the minors, what I can tell you that probably makes most of you feel pretty good, I hope. You should be in gratitude for this. There's also gratitude for the majors, but the gratitude that you can find in a minor arcana reading result is when you get a minor arcana, it isn't life-changing, dramatic, wow, this changes everything, sort of transformative level, big deal stuff as often as the majors is. And what I mean by that is if you get a minor card, it's kind of the tarot's way of telling you you can handle this. This is everyday stuff for you right now. This is pretty normal. You don't have to stress about this too much. You've got this, you know. With the major cards, that assurance doesn't feel as certain a lot of the time because this feels like big stuff. So let's have a look at Mary's question. Then we are ending with this, and then I do have a little gift to remind you guys of after this. We've only got about 2 more days before the deadline on a gift package that saves you something like $300 or $400 if you want to take your tarot training further. You're actually ready for an advanced training that I want to remind you of that gives you a full 30-minute reading with me and a full Celtic cross spread reading. So really good deal on getting all of that for a very low price right after we finish up Mary's reading here, so stick around just a little bit longer. What will happen in your marriage? You got the Empress for a marriage question. This is beautiful. This is the perfect person to be in a marriage. Really, the Empress and the Emperor would be the 2 cards that I would see as representing a happy, empowered, married couple that truly supports each other, feeling like they are in their own nature. And the Empress's nature here, look, she's looking after children, little young fairies. But she's still got her crown on. She's able to rule a kingdom and look after her children. So she's ruling with love and abundance, and this is everything that she is empowered to become as a result of being in a pretty obvious marriage with the Emperor, would be implied here with your question. And this is a really major life lesson for you. So funnily enough, even with an upright card like the Empress showing up, the obvious answer to come to here is, wow, I think your marriage looks great. Yeah? And most of the time it will be that. Now, if that doesn't feel like the case for you, Mary, if you are getting an intuition that in spite of everything that I'm seeing here, the marriage may not last forever, there's a few things to bring perspective-wise to that solution. I don't know that that's the case, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit just as a teaching presentation for you guys. If you're interested in reading cards for yourself or others later on, it's just useful to know that very occasionally this might represent a decision to end a marriage. And what I could say there is, you know, if this was for a young enough female that she was considering beginning a family, and that felt attractive to her, and she saw this card and says, yes, your soul path right here is obviously to have children. Look, there's children showing up in this card, and it's the Empress, for goodness sakes. In a regular deck of cards, the Empress is usually pregnant. Here, she's already well in charge of her kingdom, and she's got 4 children. So different interpretation there. Lots of green, lots of fertile colors in this card. You know, but maybe you know for a fact that the marriage can't have children, or the other partner in the marriage doesn't want children, in which case you would see this card then and come to maybe a different conclusion about what needs to happen in the marriage. Because what is evidenced here is your soul's request that you powerfully embody the Empress archetype for yourself. So in that, as the ultimate instruction here from the tarot, it is ultimately up for you to discern how you feel that can play out in your marriage. And that's kind of my advice for everyone on there. And that goes for everything I've said as well. Okay, that's all the readings I'm going to put in this little group, because I don't want to make long videos and exports and huge long things. I hope that was really valuable for you guys. I'm going to discuss the offer that we do have in place for about another 2 days now, just in case you guys want to jump on it. So thank you again so much for giving me the honor and privilege of practicing my intuitive tarot reading and teaching skills with you this week. And this week, for all of my students, I actually have a special offer that I'd like to spend a little bit of time introducing to you now. Now, we've done a little bit of tarot basics while we've been learning together this week already. You've probably already at this point got a grasp on the basics of the suits and the elements that are connected to those suits, and sometimes the seasons and other aspects energetically that are connected to the 4 suits of the tarot. We've chatted a little bit about major arcana cards, and we've chatted a little bit about the difference between major cards and minor cards, and what all of the different numbers possibly mean. So what we've been exploring already takes you enough into the practice and the study of tarot that you're ready for more in-depth work. And with what you have in place right now and a couple of other bonus courses that I'll explain in a little while here, I want to invite you to possibly consider joining us for our Advanced Tarot 201 class this week, because I think with everything that you've got already, I can get you up to speed pretty quickly here and have you feel very comfortable joining even an Advanced Tarot class like this one. This is just Advanced Tarot 201. It's only a step up from some very basic foundational elements that you're already familiar with. You'll be able to jump in for that reason fairly easily. But the special thing about this particular Advanced Tarot course is that it is limited to just 10 of you this week. Now, how we're going to monitor that is as soon as we've got 10 sign-ups this week, we'll be at our limit, and we'll be taking a little buy now button that you might see underneath this video. If you scroll down the screen a bit, you'll see a buy now button if there's one of these 10 spots available. Now, in particular, what I want to emphasize about why it's really important that I can only have 10 people do this program with us is that each and every one of the 10 of you that sign up earliest this week are going to get included, along with the Advanced Tarot 201 sessions, you're going to get a complete 30-minute more in-depth reading from me, where we're going to be doing a Celtic cross reading together. So here in the sessions that we've had time to do in our free group this week, you have access to a mini reading, what we call a mini reading, where I just draw one card and I give you a little bit about that card, that one card based on a 1-sentence question. When you work with us as one of our 10 mastery level students in this course, you get a lot more out of the reading here. Not only is it a full 30 minutes dedicated to you, but in those 30 minutes we're going to be doing the Celtic Cross spread, which is a 10-card spread. It's a great, very comprehensive reading that's going to give you a big picture and a lot more detail about something that you would like to take a bit more of an involved look at together with us. So all in all, the other thing that's available to you here that will make sure you feel very comfortable with if you want to go through these 10 sessions, not just yours but the other 9 as well, is that along with really up close and personal experience with the tarot, once you get those 10 sessions, you're going to have the opportunity to practice reading right along with me while I do these readings, while I interpret these 10 readings that are included as these 10 practice sessions. You get the experience pretty much of looking over my shoulder while I do these readings. So I'll be explaining a lot of more in-depth, very specific patterns and associations and interpretations that I'm making. I'll be explaining all of that to you in a very real life experience way by doing 10 sessions where you're just looking over the shoulders, getting the experience of doing those readings. Here we are now on a screen where I'm going to spend a little bit of time on the bonus course that you guys are all getting if you sign up for Advanced Tarot 201, if you sign up to be one of these 10 master students that gets a 30-minute Celtic Cross spread reading from me. What you're also going to get is a complete Tarot for Beginners bonus course from me. This bonus course comes with an 80-page Tarot Healing Affirmation Guidebook that you might have noticed me using during the mini readings and during the classes this week. So you'll have seen that there's a tarot card and then a separate affirmation for each of those tarot cards. Along with that 80-page guidebook, the Tarot Healing Affirmation Guidebook, you get a 16-part video-based class called Tarot for Beginners. It's about 14 hours in length overall. So I originally designed the Tarot for Beginners course as a course that people could go through in about the span of time as a weekend intensive workshop. But of course you are going to have lifetime access and instant access to both of these courses, but all of the Tarot for Beginners classes will be available for you right away. They'll be available for you whenever you want to go through that class. You don't have to go through Tarot for Beginners in order to go through the Advanced Tarot 201 course, but it could really bring your level of understanding in the course to a much deeper level if you do have the interest there. If not, what I wanted to ensure for all of you was whether or not the bonus feels like a good move for you today. What I can promise you when you sign up as one of our 10 advanced students here for the Advanced Tarot 201 intensive master course is that 30-minute reading in of itself is going to be a stellar value for you here. Along with the advanced course and the beginner's course in tarot, overall you're getting over $150 worth of course and class material here for the price of just $78, and then the 30-minute reading that essentially is yours specifically for you also carries about a $200 value. So all in all, over $350 worth of courses, classes, and that reading session is yours today for just the low price of $78. Why 78? Well, I've been talking to you for quite a while now about the 78 cards of the tarot. So as an introductory special offer to go to this very deep level with me, I thought 78 felt like an appropriate number. And I just wanted to give you guys a great discount. So thank you again for joining me for your readings and for the class this week. And I'll see you again in the group later on this week. Take care now. Bye.